Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of gaming news. This is about 3-day-old news at this point, but I did want to talk about a new game which was announced on the 2nd, I believe it was, called ICBM Escalation. ICBM Escalation is being developed by Software War, and it is being published by Matrix and Slytherin Games. And this is, I guess, the sequel to ICBM, which we have played on the channel a couple of times in the past. Now, ICBM, the first one, was very much kind of like a little bit more of an arcadey Defcon style game, with a focus on multiplayer, where the idea was you had like 6 different countries, which are really just continents, that would start in the 1950s or so. You would build up your nuclear arsenal, and then when one side felt it was time, you would launch your nuclear weapons on the other side in an attempt to effectively destroy them. It was very sandboxy. I don't remember there being any scenarios to speak of. And it was very much geared toward like playing with your friends and playing multiplayer, which again is kind of like where Defcon was a very popular game a while back. This felt like sort of a modernized version of that with a little bit less of a dark feeling to it. ICBM Escalation seems to be taking that and expanding that idea to include more stuff. So in the original ICBM, you did have the ability to fight conventionally as well. You had conventional bombers, you had conventional tactical bombers, warships could carry conventional weapons. So you could do conventional warfare, but it was normally only in support of a nuclear component. So like you would use conventional weapons to destroy enemy air bases, enemy silos, enemy radar installations, things that would make it easier for you to get your nuclear strike in and for you to be able to, you know, win that exchange. The game kind of flipped a switch when the first nuclear weapons were dropped, and all of a sudden sort of was the gloves were off, right? Like there was restraint. Even when you're fighting conventionally, there was generally restraint within the game until the point of nuclear weapons being used. And then there's sort of this like almost Armageddon clock based on Fallout and other things like that, determining when sort of the game ends. And seeing effectively who dies the least. There was AI, so you could play the computer in the original game, but I don't know that I ever did, except for just kind of testing some ideas out. It had an interesting tech tree where you could research like a wide variety of nuclear weapon types. So, you know, you'd start with the small sort of traditional atom bombs that were used at like Hiroshima, and then you would work your way up to, you know, massive hydrogen bombs with much increased yield. You'd start with aerial drop bombs kind of being your only option. Then you could develop cruise missiles, ICBMs, submarine launched ballistic missiles. You could develop submarines, stealth aircraft, all sorts of things like that. But again, very much in kind of this arcadey sort of, you know, you're going to play for a couple of hours and then the war is going to happen and then the game's over. Not really a story, really much more about sort of this experience of playing either with others or the AI. ICBM Escalation seems to be taking that a bit further. So there definitely is a focus on single player. So it even says there's going to be a single player campaign, which I'm very curious what that means. There's going to be new game modes, including sort of the standard standoff mode, which is what, you know, the ICBM or the first game was. A lightning fast mode, a blitz mode, if you will. Conquest mode, which offers drawn out battles of discretion, brinksmanship, and ever increasing hostility. So I'm curious about that. Like, does that mean you can take over territory? Because in the original game, there was no concept of taking over territory. It was just destroying territory. So I'm curious about that. And apparently a co-op versus mode. I don't know that we ever had like a formal co-op versus mode in the original game. I remember playing de facto co-op with friends. We'd play online, and then some of the countries were AI driven. And so like we would just be like, hey, we're on the same team, but there was nothing in the game that was like, this is a co-op where you're playing the AI. Like you could do diplomacy to have alliances. and you could share research, but I wouldn't call it a game mode of co-op. And then just one-off skirmish matches. Apparently, again, an all-new single-player campaign, which I'm really curious what that means. And then, yeah, that co-op mode. So, seems like there's a lot of new features. Also, based on the screenshots we have, I mean, there's tanks. So, they didn't really have ground units in the previous version of the game. They had, I believe, mobile ICBM, like trucks. You could have, like, mobile ICBMs. But there was no like move your armor here and have a front line. And some of these screenshots seem to indicate there might be like a front line type deal, and there's definitely tanks involved. So I guess that goes more into like they're trying to make this a more fully fleshed out game that isn't just you play for 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, and eventually everyone's going to nuke everyone. Like that still can be part of the game, but if you're talking about front lines and conquest modes, that becomes a very different game. That becomes like actually play, and I'm not saying this is going to be some hyper realistic version of World War III, but like that becomes something where you can kind of play World War III, whereas the previous version of the game was World War III basically with the extent of we're going to nuke the entire world and destroy all the cities of our adversaries. I don't know if nation states play a role or if it's still the same sort of 6-continent system. I guess we'll have to see. We don't know a ton about this. We don't know when it's coming out. I assume it won't be till 2024, but who knows? I guess we'll find out more in the coming months. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you guys about this. If you hadn't seen it already, I just wanted to kind of do a short little news blurb about this upcoming game, ICBM Escalation. Looks interesting. I had fun with ICBM playing with friends. I don't think it's a game I've ever really spent any time with playing like by myself, but if I wanted, like if you know, if Wolfpack and Tortuga and Charcoal and I were all like, hey, let's go ahead and let's play something together. It was one of those games where we're like, hey, this will be fun. We can just kind of talk, shoot the shit, play this game, you know, a fun, easy game to pick up and play in sort of a low stakes environment, if you will. Ironic saying that about a game about nuclear war, but nonetheless, like that was one of those games that we would somewhat frequently play, and it was enjoyable. So I'm definitely intrigued by Escalation. Again, it feels like it's moving out of just like, hey, play with your friends to, hey, there's more of a game here. And I'm not saying that as a dig against the original game, because I think the original game fits a need, and obviously it was successful because they're making another one, so they certainly must have had enough sales to be like, hey, there's something here, we can do more with it. And I'm just really curious to see what they do with it. So let me know if you guys are interested, if that's something that's piqued your interest with this game being announced. A couple other quick just sort of channel announcements, if you will. I don't know what's next on the channel necessarily. I have some idea. So obviously we're going to continue the Grand Tactician series, and then War in the Pacific is just always a staple, as infrequently as it may come. I've actually already played one more turn since the last video, but I'm just packaging my turns up, multiple turns per video, because until there are bigger campaigns going on later in the game, I don't see the need to kind of keep throwing out individual episodes for each day when not a lot's happening. Spoiler alert, I guess that means the first turn didn't have a ton of action going on, but hopefully that'll change soon. But other than that, like, I kind of feel like we're in a little bit of a lull right now in terms of games to play in the channel. So if there's anything you guys want to see, definitely leave it in the chat below. I've heard a couple of people say, hey, you should play the Troop. I played it when it was sort of a demo in a Steam Next Fest, and it was interesting. But if there's a lot of interest there, maybe I'll do a Troop playthrough. One other thing to kind of be aware of, which I guess is also on the news front, Ultimate General, is it Ultimate General 1776 or Ultimate General American Revolution? I forget what they're going to call it, but apparently that game is getting very, very close to entering early access. So I think that's one of those things where, like, any day they could post something in their Discord to be like, hey, early access is available for purchase. And so obviously when that happens, then I'll probably feature that pretty extensively on the channel. I don't know if that's 2 days from now or if that's a week from now or whatever. Hopefully it doesn't fall on the weekends, because I'm actually, this weekend I'm going to be out scouting with my brother-in-law for a deer hunt that we're doing in a week. I've gone on a couple of duck hunting trips with friends. I've never gotten anything, but I am going deer hunting for the first time in a week, so that'll be interesting. But I mostly do that because I think it's enjoyable to be able to like get away with friends and family and just literally like sit in a blind for 6 hours over like 18 hours over the course of a weekend, and just like talk and just connect with folks. I feel like in today's world, be it on YouTube or our phones or anything else, and I guess this is getting a little philosophical and could turn into a podcast episode, but to me it does feel like as a world we are so disconnected from people around us, right? Like growing up, you have those close friendships with kids and friends that you see every day in school, and so you build these really close friendships or connections, even if they're not friendships. And then when you graduate and you go off into the world, you have connections, you have contacts, you have people you work with who you get along with, you like. But as you start having kids, as obligations with family sort of come and go, you know, you don't have that same, other than perhaps if you have a spouse, you know, if you're married to someone, like other than that relationship, you almost never as an adult have a situation where over the course of a week, you are going to spend 48 hours with someone or 72 hours with someone. Like that's not something that our societies are built around. Whereas as a kid, you might have a sleepover, you might hang out every single day, you might, you know, whatever. So there's not a lot of opportunities to do that. And so like, that's kind of for me, and also just getting out in nature, kind of for me, that's the appeal of this. So, but anyway, whatever, you don't care about that. So yes, that's just saying basically if American Revolution comes out, you know, today, or if it comes out, you know, next Saturday, I may not be available to jump on it right away, which sucks because I know like in the YouTube world, being the first to get onto something is important, but whatever. There's more important things. I do this as a hobby. And then like, what else would I be playing? Possibly. I'm definitely anticipating Suzerain Rizia. That's going to be a series on the channel whenever it comes out sometime in the next, I'm assuming it's still on slate to come out this year. So sometime in the next 2 months. But I haven't really, you know, they've been doing developer streams, and apparently there's a war mechanic, which is new, that almost looks like a war game with like divisions and chits on the map, which looks interesting to me, but, that's coming soon. So that'll probably be covered. I don't know what else. Like, I feel like there's not a lot else that's coming out that I am like, hey, I want to play this. So I guess we'll see. With that being said, you know, let me know your thoughts. If there's any games that are coming out that you think I should be covering, that I should be playing. I actually been playing a lot of Starfield. It just sort of as a mindless sort of fun, like time sink. But I don't know that that's a great fit with the channel. I do want to take another look back at Gunner Heat PC as well. Soon. They've made a lot of progress since the last time we played it. I've just been kind of waiting for it to be more sort of fully fleshed out. And I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We could do another attempt of Arms Trade Tycoon tanks also, but let me know, guys. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I've been rambling the last 5 minutes, so forgive me for that. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks again for coming out to check this video out. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.